I supervise a lot of new grad social workers,
Mm,
and I always say
mm,
to my supervisees that although I have knowledge in some areas, I'm not
mm,
the expert in everything, and I'm still
mm,
learning too. And I learn a lot from my supervisees as well,
mm,
because a lot of them are working in different fields of practice in
mm,
social work or counseling that I haven't worked in. So I always say to them that, yes, I can draw upon my knowledge. We can talk about social work theories or therapeutic
mm,
approaches, but I'm not the expert in
mm,
everything. And I think that the
mm,
minute that we think we're the expert in everything and that we
mm,
have everything so together, I think that also makes us unapproachable to both clients, whether they're
mm,
counseling clients or whether they're professionals
mm,
that we
mm,
supervise. I think
mm,
we do need to show that we're human too, and that we do make mistakes and we have our own personal growth journeys, and we might be a few steps ahead in one area but then a few steps behind
mhm.
our clients in another. So I
Yeah,
think it's always
yeah.
great to be humble, as you said,
Mm,
like try and or do what we can to reduce the power imbalance that exists between
mm.
us and our client.
And it's also that opportunity of growth that shows that it's not like you turn 21 and you've got it together,
Yeah.
because a
Yeah.
lot of my clients kind of that wide ranging from 15 up to 32. But it's that, particularly in that kind of younger age group where they're maybe 15 to 19, they kind of think, oh, at some point you're an adult and you turn it all on and all the problems go away and you suddenly feel better about the world and all the challenges you can just control because you're an adult. But it's actually like, no, no, we're not. We
Yeah.
live on the edge as much as you do sometimes, and normalizing that and normalizing that it can be hard as an adult as well as a young person, and giving them that understanding where we can relate to them and understand where they're coming from, because we are challenged too sometimes. Like, what rights do you have as a parent to request?
I think that's one of the exciting things about being a social worker in private practice, because being that you're the boss, you can have a trial and error situation. So you can say, oh, does this program work? Does this service work? And then if it doesn't
Mm,
work, then you just change directions and do
mm,
something else. And I think a lot of social
mm,
workers are moving into private practice because they could have that experience as a
mm,
school counselor and find that there's
mm,
limitations in what you're able to do in your role and how you're able to help. So I definitely think it's so exciting to see so many social workers in private practice now, way more than
mm,
ever before. And
mm,
interestingly, when I was doing my master of social work, the university didn't cover anything about running a business, or even there was an option of private practice. It was very
mm,
much focused on social
mm,
workers being employed by large
mm,
organizations. I think it would be amazing to see an elective unit of social work in private practice in some of
mm,
the social
mm,
work degrees. That would be so,
mm.
so helpful, I think, for a lot of social workers out there.
I think that's also a big thing that kind of like I'm passionate when I talk to social workers about, especially young social workers, is social work can be sometimes seen as somewhat boring, somewhat depressing. You're dealing with the worst of the worst. You're dealing with these horrible cases and you're dealing with that. And that's also this public perception of what social work and sometimes counseling and psychology is about. Social work is all about generally about child protection and all the horrible,
Yes.
really challenging experiences that social workers go through. But I also really want to drive and put forward this idea about saying social work can be dynamic and creative and engaging, and it's actually a profession which can be highly innovative and highly exciting. Let's move away from this idea of social work being boring and depressing and full of really challenging things. It is, but it also can be innovative as any other space where you could have a program and you're just like, well, how do I do this? Like, what exciting thing can I do here? What exciting program can I invent and explore? Often social workers are naturally creative, dynamic. And I think it's really important we say, well, coming back to this problem, that we've got this problem of mental health in young people, particularly such a high rate of young people struggling with mental health. What innovation can we create? What excitement can we create? What's in your head that could begin to solve this problem? Not just going into the system, oh, I have to go to a child protection because that's where all the social workers are. It's actually kind of
Yeah.
promoting excitement and dynamics and allowing exploration.
Yeah, no, I think definitely what you're saying, it really resonated with me,
Mm,
Anthony, because ironically, I actually did start my career in child protection, and
mm,
I definitely could see the community's perception of social workers, but particularly working in child protection, that sometimes the public's view of social workers, it's not a true reflection on how we actually practice and how we operate. And most social workers work in some kind of big system, whether it's child protection or education, they work in some big system normally prior to entering private practice. But I think it's such a rich learning experience when you're working within a system that, of course, all big systems have their flaws, but then you get to know in your own private practice, well, what sort of barriers are you working to address in your own services? And you'll know the gaps in the system through having worked in a system as well.
It's also about giving in your work as a supervisor, but it's also giving permission for our young social workers to be that vibrant, dynamic, happy, or dynamic group of people who come from so many different backgrounds, and they carry so many wonderful attributes, connections to so many different communities. And instead of saying you've got to fit in this box, everyone starts, generally their first jobs are within that system, whether it be child protection, but it's also about saying don't lose that part of yourself and explore that part of yourself and let that vibrant, dynamic and innovative social worker always be present, because you never know when you might have that opportunity to let them come out and do something really different and do something out of the box that could influence and impact so many people. So I think that's a challenge we have as a system, is kind of like beginning with yourself, like a supervisor, beginning with these young social workers coming out and starting to say, we've got a system, that system exists, but what can you contribute to this, to social work, and what can you contribute to your community that only you can contribute to your community? For me, it was fitness. For me, I picked fitness because it's where I was most comfortable. It's where I felt most connected. It's where I felt my strength was. And I say this to other people. I said, if my strength was reading, I probably would have done something with reading.
You mentioned when you were young, sport was kind of your saving grace because you weren't that academic. I was the opposite. My safe place was the library because I was a more shy, reserved child. So I struggled socially. So I was the library type.